What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Pick Six Nation. This is going to be episode number 128, and my guest for this episode is Paul Hinkes. Paul, thank you for coming back on. It's a pleasure to have you back on again.
Oh, pleasure to be here. What a week. What a week to be here.
I know, free agency is crazy. I mean, what could happen with Odell Beckham Jr.? We got Aaron Rodgers, Lamar Jackson. So we have a really interesting week. Had some really had the tampering period. Then we had the beginning of the new league year, which has been great. And we also have Dan Snyder to get into as well. So, I mean, there's a ton to talk about today.
And I think for once, Mike, we actually get to start with the Chicago Bears, because I think the entire week sort of began when the Bears traded that number one pick.
Absolutely.
And it seemed like free agency sort of began a little bit early, a week ago, yesterday or last Friday, when the Bears made that trade. And we knew at least a little bit more, had a little bit more clarity about the draft. And of course, because of that, we knew a little bit more about how everybody's quarterback situation was going to fall, which of course is where I think we have to begin any conversation about free agency. So
right.
I don't know if there was one that really stuck out to you, if there was a quarterback move that really stuck out to you, but knowing that at least for another year, there's going to be a lot of Justin Fields optimism in Chicago, which I think is warranted and good. It's going to be great to have DJ Moore there for him.
Absolutely. I mean, we get a 9th overall, a 61st overall as well. So we have a lot of draft capital.
Of course. And now, of course, we know that the Panthers will be taking a quarterback at 1. We know Houston's going to take a quarterback at 2. We have to now wonder what the Cardinals are going to do at 3.
Right.
And then
Panthers could potentially trade down too. So
they could. I'm most interested, and maybe we can start here really getting into it, but I was most interested about what is happening in Las Vegas, what Las Vegas is planning. Because of course they have Jimmy G, but Jimmy G I think is obviously not a. And I was looking at the contract. There's some easy ways after like a year or two for the team to get out of that contract. So it really interests me what the Raiders are thinking in this draft, because they have the capital to jump up maybe to that number 3 spot. Maybe they're looking at the Colts at 4 and wondering what the Colts are going to do. And it's really interesting to me because obviously they have Jimmy G, but they, lost Jarrett Stidham. They don't really have the future in place there. So looking at that situation is really interesting. I think where they're going to go, who they might trade up for, if they're going to stay put, what the plan is. Super interesting there.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more on that. I mean, you mentioned Jarrett Stidham to the Broncos. We have some really nice moves. We have PJ Walker to the Chicago Bears.
And we have Marcus. Just briefly, Mike, sorry to interrupt, but I love the PJ Walker move, because I think something that I can't stand when a team does is when their backup quarterback has a completely different skill set from the starting quarterback. And you see this, you look at maybe the Saints last year with Jameis Winston and Andy Dalton. You look and you see how hamstrung a team can be when a starter goes out, because the entire offense has to change. And the PJ Walker offense is obviously going to be a little bit different, but it's close enough to what the Justin Fields offense is going to look like in Chicago, where you hope, and obviously you don't hope for this, but Justin Fields has had some trouble staying healthy in his time. And so if he's going to miss a couple games, you hope that the offense isn't going to lose a step with PJ Walker. So I love that signing. I'm sorry to interrupt, but that to me, that was a great indicator that the Ryan Poles and the Bears have their head screwed on correctly with this acquisition.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, you also have Marcus Mariota going to the Eagles. I mean, you have the Falcons, who have been very active. I mean, getting Jesse Bates III, getting Caden Ellis, getting David Onyemata. Great moves all around.
Retaining both of their offensive linemen who were coming up. I mean, I think obviously
Chris Lindstrom,
obviously, who was
McGrary.
Exactly. And obviously Lindstrom was a first-round pick, so that makes, obviously you want to keep that guy in the building, having developed him and whatnot. But, it's a bummer. I thought that the I thought that Caleb McGarry may get a nibble from a team like the Bears or somebody else. Some of these teams does need a little bit of offensive line help, but yeah, I have to wonder. And of course, with the Falcons also bringing in Jonnu Smith, I'm thinking, the
Yeah,
little Arthur Smith, Jonnu Smith reunion.
yeah.
You have to think that also with no, real set quarterback plan in place there either. You have to think that the Falcons are going to run it even more than they have in the last few years. So they may
Yeah,
be
I mean,
they may be running like a 1960s NFL offense this year, which will be very interesting to watch, no doubt.
it could all happen. It could all happen. I mean, the Falcons have had a very nice free agency so far. Let's go to the Bengals. I know getting Orlando Brown Jr., that's a really nice signing by the Bengals. Nick Scott has also joined the he's also with the Bengals, which is nice. So the Bengals have made some really nice signings there.
I'm very interested about that because I feel like I'm really interested about the Orlando Brown situation because it's less money than I thought he would get. Of course, it's less money than somebody like
Yeah.
Mike McGlinchey got, and of course,
Yeah. Yeah.
McGlinchey I think is being overpaid, but whatever. The curious thing is that Orlando Brown spent his whole career as a right tackle until going to Kansas City, where he obviously did well at left tackle and then tried to demand left tackle money on the open market here. And so what did he get? Like 65 million or something with over 4 years or something, which is, I think, considerably less than I would have thought he would go for. This leads me always to my question, which I used to ask, of course, during the Patriots, dynasty days. But if the Chiefs are letting go of somebody, it always makes me wonder. And, whether it's Tyreek Hill last year, who obviously had a phenomenal year this year, but the Chiefs did well without him. And I'm wondering if it's, how confident is, Brett Veach, the entire Chiefs organization, in when you have somebody like Patrick Mahomes, where you just feel like you can, bring in Juwan Taylor, you can bring in anybody, because as long as the Chiefs, as long as 15 is back there, as long as, Patrick Mahomes is back there, it seems that, the world is your oyster. You can do whatever you want. You can shed Orlando Brown. And speaking of, sorry, because I brought us away from the Bengals, but to get us back to Cincinnati, the really interesting thing to me is what this does to Jonah Williams.
Right. I was thinking about Jonah Williams, and I was going to bring that up
because he was a really good prospect coming out of Alabama. And actually, I happened to be, just a short story, I happened to be in Cincinnati during his rookie year OTAs. And in Cincinnati, I don't know if you've ever been to Cincinnati, but
I have not been to Cincinnati.
It's the stadium is directly in the center of the city. And not only is that, but the facility is directly in the center of the city. And the practice facility you can walk up on a bridge and just watch the entire practice basically as a pedestrian. And it was really interesting to watch. I remember, because I was, following Jonah Williams, I remember watching him and feeling like I was watching somebody that for a rookie was very fast, very fluid. Right. And of course he dealt with injuries and he dealt with some setbacks here, but I have to wonder, this is like a blue chip guy who's gonna, who's fighting for time and has requested a trade, I believe.
Yeah.
And so what is this signing for the Bengals do for a young tackle who has a lot, ideally is just entering his prime.
Right.
And again, it's sort of like the luxury of having one of these star quarterbacks. You can just you can just not worry about Jonah Williams and just pay Orlando Brown, because Joe Burrow's back there going to be doing as much as an organizer as a thrower. So yeah, the Bengals, really, really interesting. What do you think of them letting Samaje Perine go?
I think Broncos.
It's to the Broncos. That's kind of interesting.
It is. It's a very interesting move, to say the least. I mean, hopefully the Bengals can get another running back, or hopefully that happens. I mean, the Broncos get a really nice running back in Samaje Perine. That's a really nice move.
And is it not? It's correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm not sure what the situation is with Joe Mixon, but there were discussions that Joe Mixon may also be not not getting the kind of money that he wants from the Bengals, which means, I don't know, it's possible that the season opens and on week 1, neither Samaje or Joe Mixon is on the team, and it's the Chris Evans. I believe that's their third back.
Yeah, it's Chris Evans. That's their guy.
It's the Chris Evans show, which is very, very interesting. The Bengals really sort of seem to have, of course, an embarrassment of riches on offense. So very interesting.
Oh, wait. No, it's going to be Joe Mixon. I don't know why I was saying that.
No, Mixon for sure is their guy for now. But at the combine, I'm spacing on the general manager's name, but he was discussing that there seems to be a little bit of a disagreement between Mixon and the organization regarding his compensation going forward. And so, we've seen these star running backs, hold out in the past, and that's never really gone well for them. So obviously I think we're about to see that happen with Austin Eckler in California, but it'll be quite interesting to see what happens in that running back room in Cincinnati. And to your point, in Denver now with, I believe 5 running backs that I can name. Now they have, of course, I think a lot of this, and I think the Pirine signing has to do with Javonte Williams' recovery. Apparently his recovery is going very poorly, which is really sad to hear, because
that's rough.
He was such an electric
absolutely
talent.
I mean, that was brutal when Javonte Williams went down. That was a brutal. Hopefully he can get better as soon as possible.
Yeah, you hate to see anything that, sniffs of the Tariq Cohen timeline from an ACL.
Yeah. Exactly. That's so fair.
We've obviously become very accustomed to ACLs being a quick turnaround, and it's a healthy reminder of how much these guys, are going through.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more on that.
But and then, of course, the Broncos traded for, Chase Edmonds, and they have Murray, and now they have Pirine, and of course, I don't know Mike Boone. I don't know if Mike Boone is going to make the Sean Payton roster, but very interesting. And of course, all of this is to say that it's very clear that Sean Payton has very little faith in Russell Wilson's arm at this point in his career. It seems that he's gearing up to. Seems to me that he's gearing up to run the ball. So, with all of these signings.
No, wait, hang on. The Texans got Mike Boone.
Oh, Mike Boone to the Texans. All right,
that's a good move.
Good for him. A little Damian Pierce insurance policy.
Yes, yeah.
But yeah, it's going to be quite interesting to see what goes on in Denver, what that offense looks like. Really, really interesting signings, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I want to go to Kevin Byard because he should get the money that he is asking for. He should not have to take a pay cut. I think that'd be really unfair, considering he's been unbelievable for that organization. He's been absolutely phenomenal for them, and he deserves what he wants.
It's hard. I think it's a tough one. I mean, obviously, I'm always on the side of the player getting everything that's coming to them. It's a bad situation with. I don't understand really anything that's happening in Tennessee with their personnel. I don't understand. Where they are as an organization. I'm not quite sure what their plan is. And of course, speaking of teams with very, very confusing quarterback decisions ahead of them. Of course, who knows what's going to happen with Tannehill? And
right.
It's clear that Vrabel does not like Malik, and so I'm not sure what the future is going to hold for Tennessee. And so I'm not surprised if you're somebody like Kevin Byard, where you see that the team is going to go through transition and you're not going to win a lot of games. You got to ask for whatever you want. You got to ask for your money. So I hope he gets paid. I hope he gets paid. They
absolutely hope so too.
They had, of course, quite a dominant defense for those years that he was on the team for the majority of those years. And I hope he gets his due.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. Let's go back to the Bears because they've made back to the great signs that they've made. Andrew Billings, that's a really nice move. Deontay Foreman, I mean, great moves there.
I was really happy to see the Foreman move. I don't really get the Travis Homer signing, to be
I
honest.
like that. I like that move actually.
You like it? Good.
He's a really he's awesome in special teams. He's a great pass blocker.
For sure. The special teams, his addition as a special teams player, certainly I think is worth it. I agree. I think
I really like the Travis Homer signing.
All right. Hell yeah. Well, I hope he proves me wrong. But I'm thrilled with the Deontay Foreman signing. I think
for sure.
He's really the kind of somebody that, obviously when he came out of Texas was projected to be a star and then just has had horrific injury luck. And very cool to see him on the Bears. I think he's the kind of player that this offense kind of needs. I don't think he's going to have, there's not enough time to necessarily cut a bunch in the backfield and choose your spots. He's sort of a bigger body that can really sort of pick a hole and go. And he's shown that when he's given the workload, both over the last 2 years on 2 different offenses, that he can absolutely deliver. And what I'm really excited for Deontay Foreman about is he's never had a quarterback that's as mobile as Justin Fields. And so when a quarterback can move like that, it just opens up holes in the running game because you have these linebackers that aren't, closing a gap because they're worried that the quarterback's going to leak outside and burn them for 80 yards and a touchdown. So ideally, this is the kind of thing where Deontay Foreman can pick those holes and, start picking up 7-8 yards a carry. And then all of a sudden, good things happen.
I mean, him and Khalil Herbert, that would be it's going to be a really nice tandem.
I think so. And I was pretty upset to see that the Bears couldn't afford to give David Montgomery a contract that in my mind seemed obviously it's I think it's always tricky to pay a running back, but my understanding is that Montgomery represented, especially on a team that's really young, he represented a lot of value in the locker room.
Yeah,
and he
100%.
Was a real sort of leadership guy. And I think the worst part is that he's on the Lions, who I think have had actually a very underreported, but like very solid free agent.
Absolutely.
Free agency period.
Them getting Emmanuel Mosley.
Mosley's really nice.
Really nice signing.
I think
David Montgomery.
And David Montgomery, and they also got Cam Sutton, who is a really
I know.
nice,
that was really a really nice move as well.
Yeah, and I think especially because of how, I don't know, the Lions have really sort of won me over in terms of, of course, all the craziness around the Dan Campbell era withstanding, or it's just, the Lions have really made a lot of moves that make me think, we're onto something here. This is going to be a problem in the division. I think, especially with Rodgers possibly leaving, and we don't have to get into that yet. And Minnesota, of course,
we'll get into that soon.
Of course, and Minnesota, of course, seemingly in the wilderness. The Lions scare me for the first time in a long time, so maybe ever. So that's quite something.
I mean, they've been good. I mean, they had a really nice season last year, and I think they'll have a really nice season this year. And that's going to be a really nice season. So they're definitely going to wreak a lot of havoc for sure. And I also want to go to the Cleveland Browns.
Sure.
They get Dalvin Tomlinson. That's a really nice signing. I'd like to see that. I mean, I also want to go back to the Bears. They got Tremaine Edmonds and they got TJ Edwards. So
really interesting. I think the Browns are a really interesting team to watch this year because and they're not getting, I think, enough attention because of what's going on with Lamar Jackson in the division. But the Browns strike me as almost a tinderbox. I have no idea what is going on with the Browns because of how weak they looked at the end of last year, how poorly Deshaun Watson seemed to fare. And of course, they have every single egg they could possibly put in a basket into the Deshaun Watson basket. And of course, that means that there's a little money left over. So these free agent signings are super important for them. Of course, so is the draft, but they have less draft capital because of this Watson trade. So, the Browns, I think it's a good signing. I'm also wondering, are they just chipping at the edge? What is a reasonable expectation for the Browns in 2023?
I also like that the Cleveland Browns got Jordan Akins. I mean, him reuniting with Deshaun Watson, that's awesome to see. So that was really cool.
And clearly just trying to stack their tight end room.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, him, Akins and Njoku, I mean, that's an awesome tight end combo.
Absolutely. And I'm wondering what is a realistic sort of win total for the Browns in 2023. I think, we'll have to see. I mean, of course, they have weapons on offense, and I think Stefanski's shown that he knows what to do to a certain extent, but this Watson situation, I don't know if what happens if the Browns start the season 1-4, 1-3. I think things in Cleveland start to get very messy, because I think when you bring somebody like Watson in, you have much higher expectations. And at this point, with Lamar in the division, he's, I think, the third best quarterback in the division, maybe the second. And if Lamar's gone, he becomes probably the second. And if you're not winning games with that kind of, roster, it's going to be really interesting what happens in Cleveland.
Yeah, I mean, Lamar's the best quarterback in that division.
Or Burrow. I don't know which way you go, but in my mind, it goes Burrow, Lamar, Watson. But I think you could argue that it's Jackson, Burrow, Watson. But I
think I take Jackson, Watson, Burrow.
Sure. You think Burrow? You think Watson over Burrow?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. But I don't know. I mean, if we were just looking at his first seasons in the league, I think I would agree. But I think what we saw last year was like very, very concerning, and especially given his time away from the game and, of course, all of his legal troubles. I really wonder if Watson will ever get that form back again. I feel
he will.
You're confident?
Yes.
All right. We'll check back in the fall. We'll see. We'll do a little Browns watch. We'll see how they fare.
Yes, we will. I mean, a great free agency so far. I mean, great moves. I mean, we have Allen Lazard to the Jets. I mean, that's a really nice get.
So maybe we should switch on to discussing the big elephant in the room.
Right. Wait, hang on. I want to go to Azeez Al-Shaair to the Titans because that's a really nice move.
Sure.
I want to go to that. We'll touch it. We'll go to Rodgers soon, but I like the Azeez Al-Shaair move.
I think that it's really interesting to see what happens when a defense that is as good as the Niners has been over the last few years lose not only 2 coordinators in 3 seasons, but also the amount of players that the defense has shed. Super interesting to me. And it's, I'm not sure. It'll be really interesting to see what Shaair can do when he's not playing with Fred Warner, because he really seemed Al-Shaair, that is, seemed like a wonderful player, especially down the stretch for them. Yeah. And I think, of course, but if you take him away from the best linebacker in football, what can he do? Let's see.
Right. I think he does well with the Titans. I can't wait to see what happens. I mean, I think we got it. We can talk about Aaron Rodgers, Alan Lazard. He goes to the Jets. Uh, he wants. He thinks that Rodgers is a huge reason why he's there. That's
Here we go. Here we go. This is what's really interesting is, and of course, whether or not whether or not you believe that Aaron Rodgers has actually told the Jets, because of course, Adam Schefter reported
he
that
intends to play for them.
Right. And, Adam Schefter or whatever said that, Rodgers specifically gave the Jets a list of players he wanted them to sign. And of course, Robert Tonyan was not on that list, which is why he's now a Chicago Bear. But the regardless of whether you think Rodgers actually told the Jets that, everything that Rodgers is doing is making this situation worse for the Packers, because if the Packers or
I don't think
excuse me, worse for the Jets, because the Jets now have no leverage because they have committed all of this money to Lazard. They have hired Hackett. They have cleared space. And now if the Packers can say, we want 5 first-round picks or something, and they're not going to go that high. I think the asking price is supposed to be somewhere between a 1 and a 2. And of course, the contract needs to be split in some way. But if they say, if the Packers don't like what the Jets are offering, the Jets are in trouble. Who's going to be quarterback for the Jets? It's truly a Hail Mary signing attempt. And of course, he's controlling the offseason, which is what he wants to do, seemingly. He seems to really enjoy this.
Yeah, I mean, the compensation just needs to be decided upon, and we'll see what happens from there. Also, there's an article, and it's called Alan Lazard on becoming a New York Jet. It feels good knowing number 12 is going to be my quarterback. That's the title. And the article is by Nick Faria, and it says in the article, he really put his arm around me. He's a big reason why I'm here today. I can't deny that. He stood up on a table for me during training camp when I probably didn't deserve to make the roster during training camp, Lazard explained. As a wide receiver, the best relationship you could have is with the quarterback, and the relationship I have with him has been phenomenal.
It's of course all but decided.
It's all but decided at this point.
But at this point, you got to wonder what the holdup is. What is keeping the teams from coming together?
Yeah.
So it'll be very interesting, I think.
And have the almost $60 million cap hit too.
Huge cap hit, and of course the Jets have really sort of been constructed to win now.
Yes.
Of course, it's confusing because they have an incredible receiving room, and of course, expecting all of these Aaron Rodgers favorites to just fit in may be easier said than done.
Yeah, for sure. Wait, I want to go back to Odell Beckham Jr. for a second because I want to read this tweet that he did. And also, I'm going to go to Ashawn Robinson as well. And then we can go back to Roger. Odell Beckham Jr. had tweeted, "I'm just so confused where the quote is from that I said I want 20 ... crying emoji, then another emoji. All I'm saying is 4 ain't enough." That's interesting. Odell Beckham deserves to get paid what he wants. And I mean, he would be a great addition for any team.
I think so. I'd be very curious what his actual market is. I'd be very surprised if a team gave him more than $10 million for a year, just because he's, proven he can't stay healthy. Of course, so talented, but and of course, a huge reason the Rams won that Super Bowl. So you'd want to think that at some point you'd think, him joining a team like, and of course he's super rumored to be going to the Cowboys or something like that.
Yeah.
Team like the Cowboys, team like the Bills, where he can, he doesn't need to be the focus of the offense, seems right to me. And when you're not getting signed as a number one receiver, very hard to make more than $10 million. Like, you look at the Marquez Valdez-Scantling contract, you look at the Juju Smith-Schuster contract,
Yeah.
these are kind of,
Yeah.
I don't think Odell's worth that anymore.
Really?
He's on the wrong side of 30. He's coming off 2 ACLs. I think he's worth like 7 or 8. I think he's right. I think 4 is too low. But if he gets over $10 million, I'll be shocked.
I see what you're saying. I mean, I'd like him to get over 10. I mean, he deserves over 10. He's been amazing. I mean, but another thing I want to touch on before we go back to Rodgers is A'Shawn Robinson. He's scheduled to visit the Giants on Monday. And there's a tweet from Ian Rappaport saying Rams defensive lineman A'Shawn Robinson, one of the top free agents available, is scheduled to visit the Giants on Monday. Source said the veteran could beef up a New York Giants defensive line that already includes Leonard Williams and Dexter Lawrence, among others. So that would really help.
That would be scary. That would be quite a defensive line there. At this point, I sort of wonder, the Giants seems to me like the Giants need more help in the backfield than up on the line. But, I guess you can never have enough. You can never have enough, 6'5" enormous defensive ends. He's I think only 27. And would be, I think, an excellent signing. I still sort of think that the Bears should be in the market for him. I'm not sure why there's not enough discussion on that end, but these kind of players don't come along that often. Even though he's not a Hall of Famer or anything like that, he's a very serviceable player, and especially in sort of today's league, like you said, having someone like him next to Dexter Lawrence, incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. A'Shawn Robinson is 27.
Wow. Yeah. Young guy.
Yeah. Yep. Young. Absolutely. Now let's go back to Aaron Rodgers. I mean, I can't wait to see how this situation plays out. I mean, that massive cap hit, that would be crazy for Green Bay. I mean, I can't wait to see what happens with Aaron Rodgers. I mean, he intends to play for the Jets. I mean,
it's just bizarre that it hasn't happened yet. And I think every minute it doesn't happen, it becomes a little more confusing what the holdup is.
Right. He also told Adam Schefter to lose his number, which is good. That's a nice text.
Hilarious.
Absolutely hilarious.
Ultimately, of course, we're dealing with somebody that wants to be the center of attention at all times here. So the decision isn't going to get made, I guess, until until the Jets name whatever kind of number the Packers are asking for. So it's going to be really interesting. And then, of course, there's all these great storylines, him coming to the Jets, just like Brett Favre. Can he actually succeed here? Because the Rodgers we've seen, last year, it's a little bit different from the previous years. And of course, he was injured last year. And, without Devontae Adams, what do we have here? What do we actually have with Aaron Rodgers? So,
right. I mean, maybe Stafford. I mean, Stafford was a backup plan. Maybe he could have gone to the Jets too. I mean, maybe they were going to go for him. So
it's going to be really interesting. It's exciting that the quarterbacks, there's so much movement at quarterback in this class.
Yeah, the possibility of Stafford going to the Jets. I mean, that could have happened too.
Absolutely.
So, and there's an article say that's titled "Rams trade of QB Matthew Stafford welcomed as Aaron Rodgers Jets backup plan." And it says, and per one report, the Rams would have liked quarterback Matthew Stafford was among them. The Rams would have, we're told, welcomed the opportunity to trade Stafford. Pro Football Talk wrote, if Aaron Rodgers hadn't decided to join the Jets, Stafford could have become the plan B if he would have been willing to go to New York. So
it'll be interesting. I mean, of course, the Rams are kind of cleaning house here.
Yeah, they are.
Jalen Ramsey gone, with maybe Stafford gone.
Into the Jalen Ramsey going to the Dolphins, what a move!
Yeah, really, for a third-round pick is pretty great.
Him. I mean, that the third-round pick and Hunter Long to the Rams.
And what's really interesting is, let's say Rodgers goes to the Jets. Who's the best team in that division?
I'm still taking the Dolphins.
The Dolphins over the Bills?
I mean,
I don't know who I don't know who's going to play quarterback for the Dolphins.
The Dolphins picked up Tua's fifth-year option.
They did, but I think Tua is one concussion away from being out of football forever. And so I don't know, I don't know what happens there. Rodgers on the Jets, pretty interesting. That division is sort of must watch.
Yeah, I mean, if the Bills don't deal with so many injuries, I think they could definitely win that division. I mean,
I still would pick the Bills to win it, even with Rodgers there. But I'm not that confident.
We'll see what happens.
We'll see.
We'll see what happens as we get closer to this season. Do the Dolphins have the best chance? Do the Bills have the best chance? Do the Jets have the best chance? Or the Patriots have the best chance? We'll see what happens as we get closer to the season. I mean, going back to Aaron Rodgers, this situation is going to drag out for a while, and there's a lot of moving parts as well. I mean, you look at the compensation, this is going to get dragged out for a bit. It's not going to be decided for some time, so we'll have to see what happens there.
Indeed, we will. And I don't know if you want to move to the other unsigned mega star quarterback, but
let's go to Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, and of course, I guess technically Lamar has been offered the non-exclusive tag. He hasn't signed it yet, but yeah. What are your thoughts on this Lamar situation?
He needs to get paid as soon as possible. He needs to get a massive deal, and I think the Ravens would be idiots to lowball him. They would be absolute idiots to lowball him.
I think it's really frustrating because no matter what you think about Lamar Jackson's ability as a passer or as a growing quarterback in a league a league that continually values running quarterbacks. And of course, he's had a little bit of trouble staying healthy, but this is a guy who's won an MVP. The problem is of course, the Deshaun Watson contract, right? Because if a quarterback has been given that much money and hasn't had anywhere near as much success as the Ravens have with Lamar, Lamar would be, of course, foolish to take anything less than what Deshaun Watson got. And of course, here we are in a situation where it is very clear that the NFL owners have no intention of giving him that money. What we're looking at is nothing that can be proved in a court of law, but what we're looking at is like collusion. We are looking at the NFL owners somehow having gotten together and said, we are not going to give guaranteed money to our quarterbacks. I think that the Bisciotti or whatever the name is of the Cleveland Browns owners have really sort of upset the boat here.
The Bisciottis are the Ravens.
Yes, excuse me. Who would that be? The Haslams maybe in Cleveland?
The Haslams are in Cleveland, yes.
So the Bisciottis are looking around upset at the Haslams. And it's going to be really interesting because Lamar is not my prediction is that Lamar is never going to play another game for the Ravens. And is never going to get the money that he wants, which is really, really sad. You get what is the expression? You get justice in the next life and the NFL in this one. The the NFL has just proven that it doesn't want to pay these players more than the NFL wants to pay them. And it's really sad because I think Lamar is like he's clearly one of the most important and fun players to watch in the NFL.
Absolutely.
And I just am sad because I already think he's just not going to get paid. And I think it'll be very interesting to see if he plays for another team or it's really, I think it's more interesting than the Rodgers situation because so many teams are involved. And if you're a team like the Dolphins, why aren't you trying to get Lamar Jackson right now? Very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, Lamar Jackson, he could have gone to the Falcons. I mean, that would have been nice to see him go to the Falcons. I mean, could have been a Falcon. I mean, we could also go and look at he did tweet on March 14th. It says 133 / 3 years fully guaranteed. Emoji. But I need an agent. Crying, laughing emoji and face palm. Yeah, I mean, Lamar. Hopefully he gets paid as soon as possible. I mean, it'd be really sad if he does not get paid. It'd be really sad.
I couldn't agree more. I'm just looking around and I don't think I just don't know who's going to do it. It's clear that Atlanta, which as you mentioned, to me has always seemed like the offense that would best use him. They don't seem interested. And of course, Atlanta is an absurd offense anyway, just because of who they seem to not be willing to use. But the Lamar situation is really sad. It really is. It's something that's getting worse sort of by the day.
For sure.
There's so many questions to have on that one, but
yeah,
it's just understandably he's not going to take anything less than what Watson got. And you said it yourself, right? If you thought that Jackson was better than Watson, so why would Jackson take less than what Watson got?
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's a rough situation. I mean, hopefully he gets his money. I hopefully he gets the money that he wants.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Let us hope.
And he's doing the contract negotiations without an agent as well. I mean, again, hopefully he gets Lamar Jackson gets the money that he deserves.
I agree.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Now let's go to Dan Snyder. He's cleared his stuff out of the Commander's building. I mean, the sale's imminent, which is nice. I mean, dumpster fire ownership on Dan Snyder. So I mean, hopefully he's out as soon as possible.
I agree. It's quite something to think about. What a dysfunctional organization that the Commanders, the team, and whatever the team in Washington has been called, has been for, aside from sort of fluke playoff runs on the back of RG3 or the like, aside from Sean Taylor and RG3, it's very difficult to think of anything good that's happened in Washington on the football field. So, and of course there was the players poll that, NFLPA just released the anonymous poll where the players can, rank the teams from the players side, and, the facilities, the staff, the training, knowledge, everything in Washington was rated dead last. And so it just comes from, Dan Snyder has bigger problems now than losing the team. He has to make sure he doesn't go to prison. So you hope that, it'd be interesting to see who comes in, just because the team is worth so much. But we also, it's very funny. We have never, basically in my lifetime, I've never seen a functional Washington team. So, what will this mean? I know, of course, there's discussions of new stadium, new training facilities, new this, new that. We'll have to see, because the team, to me, seems without direction, really. And, to me, that seems like a pretty easy last in the division. Excuse me, last place team, if you ask me.
I mean, we'll see what happens as we get closer. To the season. I mean, the Commanders, they've had a nice free agency, though. I will say that. I mean, getting Andrew Wiley. I mean, there's also really nice hire of Eric Bieniemy. I mean,
I like it.
Yeah,
I agree. And of course, I don't know if Deron Payne is worth that much money, but it's great that he got paid. It's great that he got paid. And, it's interesting. We'll have to see what that offense looks like with Bieniemy, right? With a, what I'll call, no offense to Scott Turner, but a modern offensive coordinator in Bieniemy. And of course, they have great pieces. They have incredible skill players.
The Commanders got Jacoby Brissett. That was a really nice move.
So, we'll have to see with Hinkes down in Atlanta now. We'll have to see. It's when a team changes ownership, it usually takes a couple years to make them, to get the sort of culture, or to get the sort of, it's tough for a team to change ownership and then become relevant right away. I mean, just look at the Panthers, and then of course the Broncos more recently. It's tough to teams really sort of need that steadiness at the top, it seems, in order to become relevant on the field. So,
right.
It's good that Dan Snyder's out of the league. He seems to be a pretty despicable person who, again, needs to worry more about not ending up in prison than anything else. So we shall see. We'll see what happens with the Commanders, because it is interesting, no doubt, very interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll see what happens for sure. So yeah, and we'll see what happens. And I think that's pretty much it for this episode. Paul, thank you for coming on. It was a pleasure to have you on. You're welcome anytime.
Thank you, Mike. It was a pleasure to have you. And what an exciting time for Bears fans. It's a rare, exciting time for us. Where do you, before we end, where do you hope that they go with the 9th pick?
Tyree Wilson would be a really nice pick. I'd like to see that happen. Paris Johnson.
I was thinking, you wonder about at that stage in the draft, a tackle to me seems delicious. So we'll see what happens.
See what happens. I also want to just say, we've had a great free agency. I think, and I can't wait for the draft in late April. So that's going to be really exciting. So again, thank you. Guys, thank you for listening. Hopefully you enjoyed this episode. Take care. Have a good one. Paul, take care. Have a good one, man.
Thank you, Mike. So appreciate it.
Also, congrats on the wedding.
Oh, thanks. Coming up in September. Really excited for it.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Paul, have a good one, man.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Mike.
You're welcome. Thank you. Bye.